What's up, y'all? Just a little back test video today. Be going over news release on Thursday, June 15th. Well, I didn't take this trade, but kind of saw what happened a little after. And I'll be showing you how I see the market when news is released and what I look for to enter a trade. Yeah, so let's jump right in. Okay, so we're going over Usdcad here. So this was one of the USD pairs that showed a lot of potential at around 5:30 a.m. Pacific time, basically when news released that morning. So let's go over. And that was Thursday, June 15th. Let's just, as you can see, look at this sell, but we'll be getting into it right now. So going from a higher time frame, daily, whatever, kind of see this low being broken, and kind of the market at this time, the dollar was falling in general, and I think even this, we could back it up a little bit more, and so not really a complete sell bias or buy bias at this point. Just seeing what news does and how we could kind of follow it. So this is 5:30 news. Okay, cool. And sure, whatever, you could call this a break of structure, but we're not going to really look too much until news drops. I mean, on the lower time frames. So this is basically a little lower time frame that there was small breaks of structure here. So as you can see, news released around right here, this candle, and then boom, heavy selling pressure that ultimately breaks this low as well. And we're gonna go over how I believe I could have caught this. So we could see here before news release too, this was not really that prime time, but the market takes this liquidity out, jumps right back down. Notice how heavy these red candles get right when it takes out liquidity, boom, smack back down, right? That's just something to kind of take note of. That's how I see. Not really a bias at this point. Also to note, you could kind of label this as a big buy to sell just because this Asian range got swept, this liquidity here, and then boom, smack back down, break of structure to the downside, confirming the downtrend. And then what I like to see is price coming back into this big order block. And what's interesting here is it comes back into about 50%. So that's something to note as well. So in a sense, price has mitigated that order block. I'll kind of go over what mitigation means and how I kind of look at it, but this video is just a quick back test of the news that released that day. Basically, price mitigated about 50%, and broke smaller structures, so there wasn't really a reason for it to come back up. Okay, liquidity sweep, and then again another liquidity sweep right at 5:30. So I'm gonna label the candle. This is the news release candle right here, 5:30. I didn't even have to really look at the actual timestamp. You could just see it's like there's another buy to sell here. This whole buy to sell order block that takes out liquidity here and here as well, and then boom, break structure again. So news tapped in to 50% of that order block. So still, I'm not really looking at a buy or a sell here until something happens. What I mean by that is a cause and effect. This volume here in general is strong enough to either break this high or continue the low. So I would kind of label this low because it is, at the minutes time frame, minutes low. But technically, that is the low. That would need to be broken for me to have a sell bias. And in a sense, price right now, I guess, right, coming back to mitigate that news candle. And let's see what happens. Either breaks that low or this high that created that new low. So at this point, price, let's see, breaks that low. So now we're looking more of a sell bias, but no entries yet. And right here, if you had a seconds time frame, you can see this a little clearly. But look at that liquidity built up right there. Price takes it out and breaks small structure. That's interesting to me because price is kind of building up to have a big crash. Taking this liquidity out, tapping into 50% with the order block of the bigger order block. And this is, so this was the last buy to sell. And no limit set here, just because we want to wait for further confirmation to see if price reacts to this zone the right way. And what I like to look for is what's happening right now, actually. A wick into the zone, or a small stop before the zone, build up a liquidity, and then a tap into the zone, maybe a nice engulfing candle. But yeah, let's see. Okay, so ideally, I'd say this is where I would want to enter. Stops, I wouldn't place above here just because price could still come back into the zone, tap you out, but the bias could still be valid, right? So I would say either here, accounting for spread, maybe a little bit more accounting for spread, or obviously if you want to be safe, you could go to this high. But I would say this high for the first logical stop just because it was the mitigation of the news candle. And now you see an engulfing of the 1 minute, 2 inverted hammers, good reversal candles. And at this point, have your entry here. Maybe alert below the low to see how price reacts. No moving stops to break even, none of that BS. Because price could still come back up, maintain a small structure of downtrend, and tap you out if you move it to break even, right? So let's look at some potential targets. So as we can see here, downtrend, break structure, mitigates 50. Again, smaller time frame, break structures, mitigates 50. And ultimately, I would kind of like to aim for this whole low. But as we were just showing, as I was just showing you a buy to sell, there's also a lot of sell to buys here. So there is some buying down here too, to be aware of, right? Because price could come back down here and we're waiting for it to hit TP, but reverse, right? So we want to be aware of this. So as we were looking at 50%, and I'll go over more of why the 50% matters. We'll maybe have a whole back test of like price mitigating, right? So as of right now, it's over display, but then later something more detailed. But a general, maybe a rule of thumb would be to either reduce risk here at 3R or take some partials, depending on how much you risk, whatever you want. And this is more of a intraday type of play, so ultimate target probably down here and reduce risk here. Okay, cool. Let's play price. Oh, boom. Okay, cool. So that sell bias ended up that news ended up breaking the soul structure and continuing it down, kind of backing up the sell bias that structure was maintaining. Down, mitigation, down, mitigation, down. So at this point, a lot of the volume is closed out since it's an intraday play, news play, because price could come back up, mitigate, even tap us out, but still maintain a sell bias and then continue. So just because of where this entry was, I would probably not hold it longer than this low as an intraday play. And if you're more of a swing, if it was more of a swing play, buy this low for sure. Profits have been taken, reduce risk, and then maybe you could leave some runners, maybe a little bit, and then kind of we'll go over higher RR plays later as well. But see what happened? Price was building up, taking liquidity. Even here, mitigating news, and then boom. What a big move, right? Yeah, this was just a quick little back test. This is what I kind of look for when I look at the news mitigation plays. And this is not generally what I trade, but this is kind of what I look at around news. But I'm trying to focus more on Wyckoff and supply and demand in general. Yeah, sweet. Catch you in the next video.